Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne. And today I'm going to be turning niche internet aesthetics into character designs and monsters. I've actually made two similar videos to this before, but there are just so many aesthetics and different types of quote-unquote girls that keep popping up that I'm just never running out of material. Starting off, we're going to talk about Mob Wife, a weird niche internet aesthetic that I actually think is just a cover for a much more common trope. So Mob Wife is an aesthetic that kind of exploded out of nowhere and became extremely ubiquitous. I feel like it's definitely already becoming kind of passé, which often happens with things that proliferate a little too fast. I remember when this was first sort of being discussed, a lot of people felt that it was a response to Clean Girl. Clean Girl being an aesthetic that was all around living your life very wholesomely and efficiently, having perfect skin, light makeup, and a very curated life, with a heavy focus on aesthetic-y self-care and doing everything kind of perfectly right. It's very tied in with It Girl. Now, Mob Wife is not like Clean Girl. It's back into this femme fatale kind of concept. So Mob Wife as an aesthetic is primarily associated with a few key visual elements. Furs are a heavy feature of them, as well as darker and grungier makeup. There's a lot of retro old Hollywood glamour. For her monster design, I wanted to generally make her look like our classic femme fatale, but I wanted to give her spidery elements. I'm sure that spider elements are on my mind because of all the has-been design stuff, and I've been thinking about doing a part 2 with Angel, so trying to incorporate spidery elements onto a human design is something I've been thinking about. I really like this more subtle way of doing it on her. We have the spidery legs sort of fanning out behind her. It's hard to know if it's part of her costume or if it's part of her body, but it creates sort of a cage around her. I also like this as a concept because a mob wife as a concept is someone who is a little bit trapped. She's in a gilded cage, right? Because the inherent implication of being in a romantic relationship with somebody who is in organized crime, that's pretty scary, right? That's a scary concept to be with somebody who their very job is violent. At least to me, that seems very scary. So the cage around here almost feels sort of symbolic of that. And of course, I gave her the eyes. The general things I wanted to hit as far as the aesthetic were these dark, ruby tones. I do see some silvery stuff in some of these mood boards, but the thing that I think is the most interesting about this aesthetic are these sort of carmine, blood red kind of looks, the furs, that sort of thing. And of course, body type wise, it's a very classic hourglass. We're looking for an extreme retro hourglass shape. So that's what I went with for her physique. I feel as a character, she would have a very dark, smoky voice. She would come off as relatively vulnerable and maybe a bit of a fragile character, but deep down she's absolutely ready to do whatever she has to do. She's a mercenary type, I think, and I think she would not get along with the clean girls of the world because she's not built for that kind of life. Next, we're doing the Sad Beige Baby or Sad Beige Mom aesthetic, which obviously was first named as sort of a criticism. It's in reference to the fact that in a lot of celebrities, internet celebrities, and Pinterest boards, color has drained out of kids' nurseries and playrooms, and a lot of kids' toys are being made with more wood textures, less dyes and plastics and stuff, and not so bright and rainbowy colors. Everything's been sort of calmed and reduced to a very minimalist style where only very, very chill colors are being allowed in. I think there's a lot of reasons for this, but I also understand the concerns that kids need to learn colors, and kids tend to like colors and it's their room, so they should get to have some colors. But the direction I wanted to go for this character, of course, was a sort of semi-faceless, it almost looks like Sackboy, like a plush person. It has kind of a zombie-ish vibe to see a plush come to life, and so that's the scarier monster element of this character design. I really just wanted to incorporate mainly the color schemes but also this feeling of natural materials and fabrics. One thing that always kills me about this aesthetic is the rainbows, like the rainbow of like beiges and creams and like light brown color. I do think there's something kind of twisted about having a rainbow with like only one color in it. Because a lot of the emphasis in this is like, it almost has this like natural, healthier kind of vibe, like this granola kind of idea that like, you know, you use a lot of real like wood and fabrics like rattan and canvas and wool. And the thing is though that like a rainbow is naturally colorful. Its color is natural. So I think like combining this like very crunchy granola aesthetic, but you know, ignoring all the bright and colorful and fun parts of nature is kind of like a missed opportunity. I really tried to make sure that the character really had that juxtaposition of creepy and cute and soothing and off-putting. I think that just like my minimalism character, this character would not be able to speak at all, and I do think that they would probably just like stay together and be really close friends because they are definitely related. Like I think that the sad beige aesthetic is an offshoot and a more specific aesthetic underneath the umbrella of minimalism. It's sort of like a warm and fuzzy, cute teddy bear minimalism. Okay, let's talk about the Coet aesthetic. Now, Coet at its core is a super girly, young, cute kind of aesthetic. Whenever you see memes about the Coet aesthetic, it's always like putting a pink bow on like a worm or a rat or, you know, a fork or whatever. And it's like, oh, it's Coet now. That's kind of the core idea. For me, definitely, it has its roots in kawaii fashion and like Akihabara Harajuku fashion, the like girlier side of that, hime gyaru. I can very clearly see all the inspirations it's taken from the kawaii fashion that I grew up sort of like idolizing and having no access to as a young person. The difference here, I feel like, is Coet is actually not as strict. When you look at like Lolita fashion or hime gyaru, any of these aesthetics that I've seen before, they're usually a bit stricter. On top of that, there was definitely a lot of like tags on Tumblr that I feel like sort of coagulated this aesthetic into what it's become. The tag Nymphet definitely comes to mind, and I feel like the darkness is inherent in that tag and that terminology. At its core, Coet, I feel like, has a lot of darkness inside of it. I think it's very associated with people also wanting to hold on to their youth, and I feel like this is something that people who've gone through trauma or hardship earlier in their life definitely can relate to. For this Coet character, I wanted her to be super girly, super like tiny, and kind of like outwardly cute, but I wanted her to have an unsettling nature. She's sort of doing the Kubrick stare for sure. So I decided to show her with this like almost glittery, transparent abdomen and thighs. I think this is definitely me kind of like working through some of the things that this type of fashion style on the internet kind of got into my head when I was a young teenager. There was definitely a lot of like this emphasis on being super tiny and super skinny, and obviously that's not great for a young, awkward, you know, middle schooler to be seeing all the time. So I have her sort of being like vulnerable, and you can literally see through her, and it's sort of grotesque, but there's like this sparkly pink veneer over the top of it. I think she almost looks kind of like zombie-like or like some kind of cute android, so that's kind of the direction I went with her design. I feel like this character would be constantly putting cute pink bows on everything, but also kind of going through it every day. I feel like that is just the most accurate depiction of this aesthetic. It's very cute, girly, and adorable on the surface, but underneath there's just so much turmoil, and that's kind of the vision I had for her. Alright, next let's talk about maximalism. Maximalism is, again, it's sort of a backlash to a previously very popular aesthetic, which is minimalism. I've actually done a character design of minimalism in my very first aesthetics video. Maximalism is often thought of as like a decorating or architectural style where you're allowing yourself to have tons and tons of visual stimuli. It is very much the opposite of minimalism, where everything is supposed to be kind of calming, similar colors, and not too much like decorating. It's a lot of like clean white surfaces. And when it comes to maximalism, it's sort of this burst and embracing of color and design and pattern. And there's something really amazing when you see a room that is very maximalist, but it still looks very like carefully designed and considered. I think that it is very difficult to do. It's difficult to match lots of different colors and patterns together, whereas like with minimalism, it's relatively easy to just like pull back on everything and there you go, everything looks harmonious, it's all the same color, it's hard for it to clash. Doing maximalism and having like the right type of clash where it's exciting and fun, but not so much that it's like completely overwhelming and jarring, is really, really difficult. So in order to embody this aesthetic, I decided to just let myself add whatever came into my mind to the character design so I could really embody this concept. So I just let myself add like a devil wing, an angel wing, cute cherry earrings, lots and lots of barrettes. I made her hair every single color, and I basically just tried to have the whole design be sort of like this very energetic burst of different colors and shapes and symbols, and it ended up being quite a cacophony, I think. I pictured her as sort of like a dragon girl to go with the monster designs, and I really love her daisy scrunchie. I think that that's such a cute idea. But yeah, basically I just didn't tell myself no to any of my ideas, and I kind of forced myself to keep everything. Like, I'm gonna go ham, I'm not gonna erase anything, and we're just gonna see how it turns out. So I really feel like I embodied the concept of maximalism, though I do think that like a professional interior decorator would be able to do a better job, because there are secret balancing features that can allow a room that is very maximalist to still feel harmonious, and I do think I lost the harmony in a couple places here. Next, I want to talk about Menara, which is a Harajuku fashion adjacent fashion style that utilizes a lot of topics related to mental health and medical equipment. This is a relatively serious or dark topic for a kawaii fashion, but that is exactly the thing that makes Menara special. The whole concept around it kind of came out of communities of people who had chronic conditions and lots of mental health issues, and it was sort of this idea of taking something really negative and debilitating and making it something that's easier to talk about by making it cute or aesthetically pleasing. For my Menara character, I really just wanted to make a character design out of her, more like I did in my first videos. I didn't really want to make a monster out of her for whatever reason, so I hope you guys can overlook that. But I really like this aesthetic personally. I have been a fan of it. I get that there's a lot of controversy around the aestheticization of mental health, and I know that there's even some people who genuinely think that people are pretending to have mental illnesses because they think it's like cool or whatever, but at its core, I think Menara is really it's something to add comfort to somebody who is struggling with something that is very uncute, and it's very not fun, and they don't have any choice, right? Like someone going through really severe depression or PTSD or chronic physical conditions, those things are not cute or fun at all. Hospitals are not cute and fun. Medical equipment is almost never cute and fun. It's usually like this horrible beige plastic or metal, and every time I've had to go to the hospital, it's scary, and there's nothing aesthetically pleasing about it, right? That part is impossible to glamorize, but if you're dealing with something in your daily life, the pills, the syringes, all these different things, I think that it's okay, to try and make that something that's easier to talk about, however that works for you. And if you're someone who sees yourself as sort of like a cute girly person, I can understand why you would want to add more of your daily life circumstances into a cuter aesthetic. That being said, I totally get why people don't like this aesthetic, but for me, I have found it comforting in the past, especially when I was really going through mental health crises of my own. For this character, I really just tried to incorporate the things I saw the most. There's a very common character that will come up if you search Menara with brown hair. There's also a very popular one with pink, so I did pink and brown hair. And then I just tried to incorporate like the color schemes, the dripping pink, the X's, and the things like decorative eye patches and bandages. So here are all my aesthetics together. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any other aesthetics you'd like me to turn into characters or monsters, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons, including Viet, Lil Bunny Baby, Raccoon Jam, The Aidenverse, Scott Wilson, Grexius, Olia, Brandon Stark, CB, Lucy Amajiki, Live, Salty Jackrabbit, Ravenscrow, Saucelot, T-Hill Music, Jabber Dabber Doo, Kadaria, Deadly Nightshade Art, Astral Fox Art, The Expressive Poker Face, Tsubaki, Cutie Pie, Ice Cream Pal, Cola, JJ Jade, and of course, Lib.